Dear friends, welcome to the show Talk with Your Doc. I'm Dr. Prashant Tijani and with me is Dr. Kushal Dige.
Hello.
Dr. Dige is a cardiologist at Thunder Bay Regional Health Science Center. Today we are going to talk about coronary artery disease, also called as ischemic heart disease or heart disease. Coronary arteries are the blood vessels or vascular channels which supply blood to the heart. Normally there are three coronary arteries which are the major coronary arteries, and there are smaller coronary arteries which supply blood to the heart. And these coronary arteries are soft, pliable, smooth, and they are patent. However, due to disease condition called as atherosclerosis, a block or obstruction is caused within the coronary arteries and it reduces the blood supply to the heart, resulting in a disease called as myocardial infarction or heart attack. In 2016, 370,000 patients died due to ischemic heart disease or coronary artery disease in North America. And it is estimated that 1 in 3 people in North America suffer due to cardiovascular disease. And the incidence of this disease is growing every day. Today we are going to talk about various causes of coronary artery disease, investigations, treatment, and how to prevent it. And with us is Dr. Kushal Dige. Welcome, Dr. Dige, to the
Thank
show
you.
Talk with Your Doc. You might be seeing lots of patients with coronary artery disease in your practice.
That's right. I work as an intervention cardiologist, so we see a lot of coronary disease every day.
And the incidence is growing every day. And what do you think are the causes of increase in the incidence of coronary artery disease?
You can put kind of causes as main as modifiable factors or non-modifiable factors. So age is the biggest risk factor for coronary disease, and it is something that we cannot modify. It's going to keep on increasing as we get older.
When you say age, what age it starts?
So the process of atherosclerosis really starts right from the beginning, since very early age.
Young age?
Yeah, very young age. It's just like it's so silent that we don't even realize anything happening.
Mm-hmm.
And this process takes decades actually to kind of manifest into severe blockages in the arteries. So by the time these blockages occur, we are usually in our midlife or even sometimes earlier, or in some patients even later. So it depends on the how rampant the process of atherosclerosis is.
So it starts at young age, say 10 or 15 years of age, is that right?
It could be, yes, absolutely. There are
And
actually
then-
some studies that are trying to figure out it may be as process starting as early as birth even.
Oh, so and then slowly this grows and then it ultimately causes the obstruction then?
That's right.
Now, does it affect the males and females both, or one gender is more affected than other?
It affects both males and females, but in general, females are protected. So females in general age slower than males because of protective hormone called estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
So after they finish their menstrual periods, around roughly at the age of 50, the chances of females developing coronary disease kind of gradually, catches up with males at the same age. But before the age of, even when patients who are menstruating and have the estrogen hormone, they still can develop coronary disease depending on how many risk factors they have.
So now when you say risk factors, what does that include?
So traditionally there are risk factors, as I said, is modifiable and non-modifiable. So non-modifiable factors are not in our hands, main is age. But modifiable risk factors are definitely something that we can change. And amongst them, the commonest causes would be high blood pressure or hypertension, development of diabetes, number of years you are diabetic,
Mm-hmm.
high cholesterol, smoking, sedentary lifestyle.
So you said smoking is a risk factor for coronary artery disease. So how does the smoking cause the heart disease?
So smoking in general, or any other risk factors, what happens as the process of atherosclerosis, typically the lining of the arteries are pretty smooth when we are born or an early age. And as this lining of the heart or arteries or any arteries so that in the body, as they get damaged, they form lumps and bumps in them. And these are deposits of fatty tissue or cholesterol particles that over the time period can cause turbulence in the blood flow.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a smooth lining of the arteries, the blood flow is pretty smooth.
Smooth.
But when you have more of turbulence in the blood flow, the chances of damaging the inner lining of the heart arteries is high. And this kind of leads to worsening of or more accumulation of cholesterol particles to the extent that these lumps and bumps gradually grow in size, and eventually they can form calcium deposits at later ages and even cause more severe narrowing in these arteries.
So you mean the smoke or chemicals in the smoke cause the damage to the inner lining epithelium of the or inner wall of the vessel, and that leads to this development of a atherosclerosis or plaque? Is that?
That is the presumed mechanism in smoking-related.
Smoking-related.
But even in patients, for example, who have hypertension
Uh-huh.
or diabetes, they have other mechanisms similar to those smoke-related that cause damage to the inner lining of the arteries.
So smoke or hypertension or diabetes, all of them, they cause damage to the inner lining of the blood vessel,
That's
and
right.
then result in a plaque formation and causes obstruction.
That's right.
Now, you said sedentary lifestyle is a risk factor for coronary artery disease or heart disease.
Right.
How do you define the sedentary lifestyle? You know, I'm sitting all the time in my office, so
Right. It's hard to define what is sedentary lifestyle. So in general, what I say is, when you're a child, for example, you do a lot of sports or activities or even play around the house and you sweat every day. So that is a good amount of exercise you get on day-to-day basis. So as we get busy in our lifestyle, or you have family and kids and so on, that you don't do as much of physical activities that make you sweat. So I tell my patients is, if you do whatever activities that don't make you sweat, probably you're not doing enough of these activities. So if you exercise or somewhere that you produce good amount of sweat, that is a good amount of exercise that you're doing. So in general, we don't do so much of exercise that leads to some amount of sweating in that way.
is there any study which says that so much amount of people getting heart disease who did not do the activity and who did the activity?
No, because sometimes, rarely you'll see some patients who are very active
Mm-hmm.
who still come with heart attack.
Right.
So it's not like yes or no saying, oh, if you do this much of activity, you will never get a heart attack. In medicine, you can never say never is never. Sometimes you get in trouble despite doing all the best things you do, but that is what life is.
So sedentary activity or less physical activity, how does it cause damage to the arteries?
In a way, like sedentary lifestyle, it increases your chances of diabetes, or it increases your chances of developing hypertension, or being sedentary and probably you're having more calorie intake than what you're spending, your overall cholesterol deposition in your body goes high. So those are that's the link between sedentary lifestyle and the reason why you can get heart disease.
So it's good to be active.
Absolutely. The more active, the better you are.
Thank you. We'll take a short break and we'll come back
Sure.
for the more discussion. Thank you so much. Please stay back for the next part. Welcome back to the show Talk with Your Doc, and with me is Dr. Kushal Dighe, and we are talking about coronary artery disease. Dr. Dighe, you were mentioning that sedentary lifestyle and smoking are the risk factors, and you mentioned that smoking causes damage to the lining of the heart as well as the diabetes and hypertension, and also sedentary lifestyle or less physical activity can also lead to coronary artery disease.
Right.
So what is the minimum physical activity recommended? Is there any time frame, or how much activity or exercise I should be doing every day?
I mean, if you do exercise every day, the more is better, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
At least if you are able to do at least 30 minutes of exercise per day, that would be a best thing. Some people are quite busy in their lifestyle, so we say, at least if you do 5 times a week, that will be better. So you can choose weekdays versus weekends, but at least 30 minutes of physical activities, good amount of activities, as I say, enough to make you sweat, that would be good enough.
Right. I've heard that people who have a family history of heart disease, they have an increased incidence of coronary artery disease or heart attacks. Can you please explain us more about it?
Family history is pretty much linked very much to the high cholesterol that they have. So either these patients have some genetic uh, defects in their cholesterol metabolism that they are able to develop high amounts of cholesterol that leads to deposition of this cholesterol in the coronary arteries, or there is something that is beyond that. Even from what we can understand, they have some mechanisms other than which we don't know at this point, could be that they are more predisposed to the way their body reacts to certain stressful situations. But that part is still not so well studied. But what we know for sure is if a person has family history of heart disease, then they better see if their cholesterol is high. And that you can check at a little bit earlier age, maybe in their 30s or even early 40s.
Now, when you say about cholesterol, there are two types of cholesterol, good type and bad type. Can you please explain us how do we differentiate between these two?
Sure. The good cholesterol is what we call as HDL, and it is cardioprotective. So the more amount of HDL cholesterol you have, less is the likelihood that you would have coronary artery disease.
So how do we get HDL cholesterol?
HDL cholesterol, there is no great medication to improve your HDL cholesterol. The biggest way that increase your HDL cholesterol would be exercise and activities.
So exercise converts bad into good?
You form more of good cholesterol,
cholesterol.
as opposed to bad cholesterol.
Okay.
Yes.
And what is bad cholesterol?
So bad cholesterol is we call as is LDL, and it is pretty much related to dietary intake or to cardiac risk factors such as smoking, diabetes, and hypertension.
So what sort of diet contains this bad cholesterol?
So anything that is fatty, so if it is any diet that is too much oily or having too much of fatty tissue, or even you have these labels you can check and they will say this much cholesterol or this much amount of fats the person the food has, the higher the amount, the more likely of that amount being deposited. Although I should say our body also makes cholesterol because you need some cholesterol for development of brain, for example, or development of certain tissues in your heart, in your body. So your body makes cholesterol as well. So as long as it's like a balance, as I said, so if you intake quite a bit, but you don't spend that much of calories doing physical activity, so overall there is a net gain at the end of the day, and that net gain you store in your body as fat.
As a bad cholesterol, that problem.
And that can cause bad cholesterol.
What is triglyceride level? I've seen many patients having high triglyceride level. So
Right.
how do we get the triglycerides in our body?
So it's again the same way. It's dietary intake is a main factor for triglycerides. Also, they have, as I said, there could be some genetic familial disorders that can increase your triglycerides. Again, I should say that high alcohol intake is a common reason for high triglycerides as well. Yes.
So does this high triglyceride and high quantity of bad cholesterol, they lead to this plaque formation in the vessels, right?
That is what is the current norm. So as there is damage to the inner lining of the heart arteries, there is progressive accumulation or deposition of cholesterol and fatty substances inside the lining of these arteries.
Right.
Now, as they the process, as I said, starts at a very early age, and as this process continues, later on, there is deposition of fibrous tissue, there is deposition of calcium, and this overall process we call as atherosclerosis.
Right.
And this doesn't just happen in the coronary arteries, but probably every artery in your body.
Now, when we buy the food from the market and we see cholesterol high or good cholesterol, bad cholesterol in it, and the contents of those, but no cholesterol is better or some good cholesterol is better?
So, it's very a marketing gimmick that the food industry makes is they put a big label of no cholesterol or low cholesterol or so on. But these products you have to check their labels because they may contain high amount of sugars. So overall, you are consuming, you're substituting one bad thing for another, and still it's not good for you. So the quantity also matters. So if you're having something that is low in cholesterol, but you consume twice the amount, then overall you're still having the same amount of cholesterol in your body.
Right. So we have to watch for how much quantity we are eating along with what we are eating.
Probably I should say we are eating more than what we need.
Now, obesity is one of the very important factor of the heart disease, and people who are overweight get a lot of heart disease. So, can you please explain us what is the relationship between the obesity and heart disease?
So obesity is kind of again a factor where you're probably storing too many calories at the end of the day as opposed to burning them. So you're likely less active, you're likely consuming more calories than what you need. Likely you have higher risk, or probably you have also developed diabetes or hypertension because of obesity. So these are all similar interlinked factors to develop coronary artery disease.
Obesity is growing very rampantly in all over the world, probably because of the TV and television and computers and less
Right.
physical activity.
Right.
So more physical activity would be preventive for the heart disease, probably.
Absolutely. So as I said, you should, before you put in some food into you should always think, how am I going to burn those calories?
Right, right. Think of output more than input. Then.
Absolutely.
Now, is diet related with the prevention of the coronary artery disease? Like if you eat more fruits and vegetables, does it change the possibility of getting heart disease?
Right. It could, yes, because you have certain factors in your diet that can be cardioprotective, or you have certain things that can increase your good cholesterol. So certainly eating more vegetarian diet, or consuming less animal fat, or consuming more fruits and vegetables will reduce your chances of coronary artery disease.
Thank you, Dr. Dige. Please, we'll take a short break and we'll come back for the next part.
Sure.
Please stay back for the next part. Thank you. Welcome back to the show, Talk with Your Doc, and with me is Dr. Kushal Dige, and we are talking about coronary artery disease. Dr. Dige, you were mentioning about various causes and the risk factors for the coronary artery disease. Now, suppose somebody's heart vessels are blocked to some extent, say 30%, 40%. Somebody might have 80% or 90% blockage of the blood vessel. What are the symptoms?
So typically a patient who has severely blocked arteries will get chest discomfort, which is more of in the center of the chest. They feel like a squeezing or a tightness in the chest. And that typically occurs when they're doing some physical activities. So it's like a matter of supply and demand. So when their demand for blood-rich oxygen is high, when they're doing physical activities, if they're unable to get that blood-rich oxygen, then they have what we call as ischemia, and that relates to chest discomfort and tightness. With activity, we call this term as angina.
But that happens when the blockage is more than 75% probably. But what will happen if somebody has, like, say 30% block?
So if there is a 30% blockage, usually they will not have any blood flow limitation.
Okay.
So meaning that even if they are doing high amount of physical activities, day-to-day activities, or even exercise, their heart is getting enough amount of oxygen to be able to cope with that activity. So typically they will not have symptoms of chest pain that we call as angina at that time.
So then this 30% will gradually grow 40, 50, 60, 70. So how do we detect this earlier blockage? Is there any test, like say stress test? Can stress test help us to detect the earlier blockage?
So no, the stress test can tell you if you have a 70% or over
More.
blocked arteries.
Okay.
But because again, the stress test is when you do a treadmill exercise stress test, you're increasing the demand of your heart, and you're checking for symptoms of chest pain, or you're looking at ECG for signs of ischemia, and that will only happen when the demand is high and the supply is less.
So somebody has a heart disease or coronary blockage, say 60%, but his stress test may be normal completely.
That's right.
And still this patient might have heart attack and he may suffer from the heart attack.
That's right. So as I said, as there is a deposition, this atherosclerosis process is like a continuous process. So initially these plaques that are formed are soft, and they have, we call like a toothpaste like a material inside, which is high in fatty tissue and cholesterol. If these plaques rupture for some reason, then the inside of this plaque, the fatty tissue, comes in contact with the blood, and it triggers a reaction to form a blood clot. And now the 40% or the 50% blocked artery from the plaque is pretty much 100% blocked, because rest of the blockage is formed by the blood clot.
Blood clot, yes. So even though somebody has 50% or 40% block, but that patient may have acute heart attack and die because of heart attack, because
Right.
that vessel has been eroded by the process of blood clot probably.
Right. So there are factors that can cause this lining of the plaque to be thin,
Hmm.
and there are factors that can weaken this lining, or factors such as physical, emotional stress that somehow breaks this barrier.
Barrier.
And this, once that barrier is broken, there is a trigger reaction
Mm.
where the cholesterol particles come in contact with the blood, and there is a process of platelet aggregation and clot formation, and the rest of the vessel is then blocked with a blood clot.
Mm.
So in together, the half the blood vessel is blocked with a cholesterol particle, half of it is blocked, for example, with the blood clot. In total, there is no blood flow in this artery, and the heart muscle has no oxygen, and this is called as an acute heart attack.
So it's interesting you're saying is that any stress, whether physical or mental stress, can
Right.
cause this damage to about 40 to 50% blocked vessel.
Right.
And most of us have 30 to 40% block anyhow, right? As we are developing it in our lifestyle.
Right.
So even we have a 40% block, but an acute stress, physical or mental, can cause us to die with the heart attack then.
That's right. So there are factors, some of them are beyond our understanding still, as
Mhm.
what makes this plaque rupture.
Hmm.
So there are, again, a patient who has more risk factors, being diabetic or a smoker or poor lifestyle, obesity, physical inactivity, all these factors probably lead to such an environment that when you have that physical stress, that you're not
Or
able to
mental stress,
or a
right.
mental stress, emotional stress, that you're unable to withstand it, and that somehow your lining of the plaque ruptures.
So it's very important to be physically active as well as mentally strong, rather than getting stressed out with the day-to-day problems, because that can lead to heart disease probably.
More of, I should say, is more of depression. So
Depression.
depression is one of now, we think as a risk factor. Again, if you're depressed, you're not paying attention to yourself,
Mhm.
or you're not paying attention to your risk factors.
I've seen many young patients like in 30s and 40s, dying because of heart attack. And probably this might be the mechanism, or is there anything else you can think of?
Well, in some patients very young, they can have some coronary anomalies.
Mhm.
And that is, again, beyond our control. You're born with some very bad circulation that you have risk of developing a heart attack. So we cannot predict those. So those are not in our hands.
Now, sometimes we have seen patients or people watching some match or soccer or football or cricket, and their favorite team loses and they die with a heart attack. What happens in that case?
So it's again the same as emotional stress. So if you're emotionally too excited,
Charged, yeah.
or you're emotionally too depressed,
Hmm.
you have those trigger reactions into your body that can, trigger a reaction that can lead to this plaque rupture.
Plaque rupture and die immediately, probably. Now, so investigations wise, what investigations can help us to diagnose our disease process?
So if somebody has symptoms of chest pain, which you call as angina, then it's advisable, first of all, get in touch with your physician or a
Cardiologist.
primary care doctor, or somebody to either do a stress test or refer you to a cardiologist for some tests.
Right. What sort of testings are involved, like electrocardiogram, stress test? What are the other tests we can do?
So an electrocardiogram can just gives you a snapshot of the heart.
Hmm.
It is a very valuable test if you're having chest pain,
Right.
to see what kind of heart attack you have.
But if you don't have chest pain,
If you don't have chest pain, then an electrocardiogram is just a snapshot of the heart, which tells you, it just gives you a lot of information. If you've had a previous heart attack, if you have factors of thickening of the heart muscle, or if you have some arrhythmias, so it is a valuable test. But if you're having no chest pain, it can't tell you you're having a heart attack or not.
right. So then what do we do next?
So if somebody is having symptoms, or they're not sure about their symptoms, then usually a first line test is what is a treadmill stress
Stress test, right? And that's what you were mentioning, that you walk on a treadmill and
Right. So you walk on a treadmill, and again, it increases the demand of your heart. And what is all is doing is checking, is the supply of blood or oxygen enough for your heart?
Right.
And if it is enough, your stress test will be normal.
Right. So the stress test is useful if you have more than 90% block or 70% block.
Right.
And then if it is less than that, the test might be negative also.
That's right.
So there are many more investigations which we can do and many more things to talk about ischemic heart disease. And our time is the limitation factor. So we'll continue this discussion in our next episode.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Dige. Thank you everyone for watching this show, Talk with Your Doc. Next part of the Talk with Your Doc show will continue with the discussion on coronary artery disease or heart attack. Thank you.